still raised.
That's right. I know. Just feel like somebody took away everything.
Well,
This too shall pass.
country's a little mad right
You're happy?
now. No, gone mad.
Oh, we won. Yeah, it's,
It happens.
I guess it's good once in a while to be brought to our knees.
It's, yeah, why not?
Is there a time that Bob and I could come up to your house and talk to you? Yeah, about,
You're
we
always-
wanna-
you're
we
always
want to
welcome.
see your smokeless fire pit for one thing.
Oh, okay.
And we're still wondering if you're sure you want our family there in March.
Well, yeah, we'll have to talk about that, because,
Yeah.
you know,
I know your
Nicole is
situation-
moving in, and our situation is very
It's
different. Yeah,
Yes, and if
it's
it's
a little
not,
surprise for both of us.
if it's not gonna happen, then we have to make other arrangements, so that's why
Do we have to take all? Is that,
I don't know how that,
well, let's talk about it. We'll talk about it, sure, yeah. I mean, we'd like to do whatever we can, for sure.
no, I don't think you would have to take all.
Well, we might
I
be
could
able
break
to.
my daughter's arm,
Well, we're on live here, but,
and they can't come to my house, unfortunately.
yeah, sure.
We have, they could come, I could put 4 people up in our attic, but my daughter-in-law's deathly allergic to cat hair, which
Yeah.
now we have 3 cats.
Well,
And
I mean, I mean,
I could take 4 of the kids.
well, we'll sit down with Nicole and, because, you know, there's what we don't know, her son is not living with us right now.
Chase. I know Chase.
How do you know?
Sunday school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When Kristen and I did Sunday school for, that 1 or 2 times.
Okay. So you met him, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're slowly, taking baby steps to incorporate him.
So Chase is with Dad?
Chase is with his dad, yeah.
Where is
And,
that?
Burbank.
Oh, not far.
No, not far out. So, I don't know what that timeline is
Yeah, well, that's
right now.
There's-
This is March?
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
March.
Yeah.
So
He may not
there
be
is-
living with us in March.
You don't know.
I don't know that yet. But we're moving forward. Things are going well.
Or the time.
Yeah, you gotta figure this out.
That's all.
Everybody's gotta relax.
Tell me.
Yeah, he's a great kid. He's a terrific kid.
Well, he was there with his cousins. So.
Yeah, right.
And he wasn't there all the time.
Right.
Just a
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So, well,
Here comes Helen.
morning.
Oh, good morning. He said good morning to me. I said, is it?
Bad morning.
Oh,
Yes.
Well,
Oh, I was just telling Ruth, my granddaughter in Tennessee, who's a music teacher
Yeah.
in public school. She took off today because she was up very late yesterday.
Oh.
She knew she was going to be late doing plays, they were doing the musicals, and she said, all
Yeah.
hours of the night.
yeah.
She was just so upset, and I'm trying to console her, but I gave us both a pep talk, and even I felt better.
That's what I do every Sunday morning. I'm just preaching to myself.
You get up from there and you go get dressed and go call your friend that you know's home today, who is not part of that group. And then you go do something fun. I said, you cannot do this.
I got to talk to my daughter. My daughter's a social worker with seniors.
Oh,
And she was having a horrible time with mental health, mental health that's supposed to come help when they have a problem. And she had 2 people that lived there that were having serious problems. And they wouldn't come. They said it was physical and not mental. But one was a 97-year-old with dementia.
oh my goodness.
And I don't know the situation, but she was a mess yesterday. Today she's going to be worse.
Well, this, will fix their lives. I
Well,
mean,
her
Lindsay She says, my job will be the first one to go.
Yeah, my daughter's.
Music, art,
Sure.
all of those things. She says,
Right.
what are we gonna do? And I said, Lindsay, we're gonna do the best we can.
We're gonna do one day at
We're
a
gonna
time.
do it, that's right, that's exactly what I said. We're gonna get up
We're gonna put one foot in front of the
and
other.
go about our business and do the best we can. And we're gonna try to, you're gonna help your, oh, she was so worried about, she has one group, of course, a lot of the singing and everything, but several of the kids are gay.
Oh,
They're
this,
so upset about them. She says,
right?
Mom, what am I gonna tell them? What am I gonna do with these kids? You know what? I said, Lindsay, you're going to give them some hope and some inspiration. You're going to teach them some music, and they're gonna have fun, and you're gonna be fine.
Music is always uplifting.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And so I don't know. And then I'm crying when I get home. Oh, my poor Lindsay. Oh,
It's certainly not for us.
I just can't. I refused to believe that the majority of this country were racist.
Me too.
And you know, that they had so many people, groups of people that they hate. There's hatred, the division is, how can we have that a majority, and a good majority?
And it's always
It
been
wasn't
there.
even
It's always
close.
been there. It's always been
It
there.
wasn't even close.
Nope. It's always been there. This is who we are. This has been a part of our lives since 1776. It's who we are, and it's not been resolved.
It was a part of my life when growing up. I was a part of that. I mean,
Of course.
really.
I was
mean,
too. I was too.
It's just,
Yeah.
but I thought the country had changed.
No,
I'm very
the country has
foolishly-
not changed.
I foolishly
The
was
country has not
naive,
changed.
and I've always been a bit of a Pollyanna anyway.
This is
But,
all the way it is. Yeah.
But, man, we've got a rough road ahead of us.
Yep.
God's bringing us to our knees.
Yes. He certainly is
We
doing
gotta
that.
do more praying.
Oh, God, we need you now.
Well, churches, some churches, hopefully Lyall will be an alternative community to what's going on up there.
I hope so.
I hope so. I'll do everything I can to make that happen, and yeah, so people feel safe here, no matter where you come from, no matter what's happened to you. This is a safe place to be yourself, and we'll just keep talking. We're not going to shut up, but we're going to keep talking about things that matter. And the people that are game for that will stay, and the people that aren't game for that will not stay. And that is just the way it is. But we want all of them to stay. That's where I'm coming from.
Well, we have, our church got a little bit of ad press this weekend.
They did.
Did you read it?
I don't get any.
Not press, it was in Facebook, social media.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I
You
saw
did
it.
see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Did her? I didn't, I'm one of the ones she's talking about.
Oh.
I didn't.
I didn't know that.
I was the one, no, not intentionally, but I fell into the group of not stepping up as a church member, you know.
To do what?
Well-
I guess we're talking about the same thing, but I'm gonna turn that off.
Yeah, let's do it. We can still be good at
Uh,
Yeah.
Well, it
Well,
was,
I'm gonna get off this.
it was
See if I can figure out what you're talking
and for parents and how we deserted them and, is that the one you read?
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Well, then you need to
I
show
said,
up.
I guess I am, and I said to Lenny, I thought about writing, or, I know this person really well. She was in my choir, and her mother was a choir, well, not really a choir mother, but they were never members like you, you know, and,
I don't even know.
well,
I don't even know.
they have never been here since you've been here.
10
Now,
years?
she may have come for Easter or
10
something.
years. Well, it's, yeah, I would recognize
Easter
it.
or Christmas or
Yeah,
something.
right. I mean,
But it
all
was
right.
like, we were just an equal, I mean, the church, naming the church.
Oh,
And saying the things she said, and I wanted to, I said to Lenny, I'm gonna answer her, you know, and say, this is not the experience. He said, you better leave that alone.
Yeah,
Because
leave it
you
alone.
open up, you open up.
no.
It's
But
okay.
it made me a little mad.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I was kind
Okay.
of, I wasn't surprised at it.
No, I wasn't.
Because she did the same thing to Cemetery.
So,
Her mother died.
oh, she did, yeah.
She
Yeah.
wrote stuff on Facebook.
She did?
How terrible they were at Cemetery.
Well,
Well,
you
this-
were in the dark, they understand.
Well, at least we're consistent.
I'm too against it like that. Could you tell us?
You would not know these people.
You're
no.
right, I probably.
You wouldn't know them.
What did they do, or what did they?
No, they
post?
she just posted on
Yeah, they
Facebook.
wanted the red carpet treatment. They didn't get it. Remember
Oh.
that? So,
They used to
came here
They
and
used,
wanted
yeah,
the
they
red
used,
carpet
they used to be members years and years ago, but not since any of you have been here.
it's 10 years.
Yeah,
I don't, they haven't shown up in 10 years.
and I was very surprised because I always liked her very much, you know, she's,
Doesn't matter.
yeah,
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
No,
It's
does
just,
not matter.
I hated to see that on Facebook.
The red carpet treatment.
Well, here's the thing with all churches, You're going to have people who have an historical relationship with a church, whether they go there or not. And when something happens in their families, wedding, funeral, whatever, baptism, they want the treatment that is consistent with someone who comes here. They equate historical connection with now. And that's very common. It's very common.
Is it?
Oh,
I
it's
didn't
very
know that,
common. Oh my
But
God.
it was very.
Oh yeah. Or my grandfather's
I'm thinking-
uncle's, concubine's nephew came here and gave this pew, and I've heard that for years.
Well,
I pay no attention to it whatsoever. Then show up, is what
I
I
just
say to people. Then
was
show up.
annoyed that she named the church, and then you have all these people writing in, and I'm thinking,
Right.
well,
Oh, I think it's terrific. Bad press is fine, great.
It seems to be better than good press.
Right nowadays, yeah, I don't mind
I
bad
guess
press.
so.
I don't mind it at all.
Any press is good press.
Yeah, it is. I'm absolutely fine with it.
Well, I guess we're it.
It just was not descriptive of this church.
Well, of
and
course
never
not.
has been.
And people know that, so they're gonna say, what's the source?
But I did feel a little guilty because I did know our parents. We weren't real close friends that we went to each other's house. Not like I was with Nancy, you know.
Yeah, it's okay. It's perfectly okay. Doesn't bother me about
But I did feel a little guilty that I didn't come
it.
to
Yeah, you should have.
stuff.
Let me help you with that. Anyway,
Lay it on.
that's
lay it
really
on.
not my problem. I
What
have
were we
many
supposed
problems,
to
that's not
study
one of
today?
them. What's that?
What were we supposed to read today? I couldn't remember.
Malachi chapter.
Oh, I thought we finished that for some reason.
No.
No? Did we just get
No, we didn't
started?
finish it.
I missed something somewhere. Let's see.
Now, I can turn this on now.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
Welcome, everyone. It's lovely. I'm sorry that there's no pounding going on this morning. I know we're gotten used to that. But this, as we've said, this is the last book of the Old Testament. What comes after this? Silence. For 400 years. This is the last word. There we are. Oh, thank God. Thank God that's starting. When you think of last words, and if you had a chance to give a last word, what might that be? your parting, I don't want to say shot, not your parting shot, but your parting words to the world, to the congregation, to your family, to your friends. What might that be? Last words.
I love you.
I love you.
Yeah.
I love you.
God
And,
bless you.
and
God bless you. Yeah.
God bless you, and love one another and take care of each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Malachi will get around to it, but not until he has other things to say. And almost all of it has to do with leadership. That the priests and other religious leaders especially are not performing in a way that is consistent with their callings. And it's a mess as a result. Does ring any bells? Yeah, and so when that happens, the nation will suffer. And things start to unravel. Institutions start to unravel. You start to place people in positions of great importance politically, rather than placing people because they will be good for the nation, for the people. And that's not happening at this time at all. At all. And you know, that is true for every age, including ours, but this is nothing new. And to get leadership that has integrity and the people in mind, foremost in mind, is a little bit unusual, I would say. It happens.
Most of the time you get some, a few.
You'll get some.
A
And
smattering, a
right,
little,
right.
you know.
That's
2
true.
or 3,
That's true.
something most of the time.
That's true.
But when
if you-
there's no checks and balances, you got it rough.
Right. So, you know, and things from this point on, I mean, it won't be too many years before the Romans show up here. And then things get even more heated and tense and political. I'm talking about the religious leaders now. Until you need someone who's going to correct it. And with a person like that, and you can look throughout history, typically that person, whoever it is, or persons, are going to have a very short lifespan. I'm thinking 33 years in this case, to try to right the ship. And you know, the powers that be do not want to give up on power. Power is intoxicating, right? And you get all sorts of perks with it and so on. Some will have the power of the sword over their people. And so for a person to rise up, whether it's, you know, Nelson Mandela or Gandhi, or, you know, there's Martin Luther King, there's, you know, you can go back as far as you want in history. Abraham Lincoln in our country. Who's the person that was killed in Russia recently? Navalny, right? A typical example.
Yeah, it just never ends well for those people, does it? Never.
That's right. And biologists would call people like that a sport. A sport. Do you know that? Do you know that?
I never heard of
Yeah,
that.
a sport is, in evolutionary terms, a sport is a jump of evolution, where a monkey would become kind of a super smart monkey, let's say, or something like that. And almost always a sport will be killed off. And that's true also in the human family, I think. Jesus, in that sense, is a sport. He's what human beings should be. And he's evolved way beyond his Sitzenleben, his place in life. And so he will be killed off in the hopes that in time, evolution will catch up to who he is. And in the grand scheme of things, evolution is a very, very slow process. And we obviously are not there yet. Some are, you can see people that act like Jesus. They have the Spirit of Christ in them. And they're evolved as people. And so on. But in the Christian church, we would say Jesus is the example, and the church has talked this way for centuries and centuries. Jesus is the example of two things. One is he's the example of what human beings should look like, and he's also a window into what God is like. Both. Have you heard that before? Yeah.
Not exactly in those words.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm not very smart, so I'm doing the best I can.
But sort of.
Yeah, that's the idea, at least, behind a Christology, what we would call Christology. And, it's not so easy. And also, if you're going to embark on such a pilgrimage as a Christian, you can bet that people will want to kill you off. Maybe not physically, but there will be pushback because evolution also likes homeostasis, stay the same. Both forces are at work. There's evolutionary forces to move things forward, and there's also homeostasis, which wants to keep things the same or go back. That's the impulse of let's make America great again. What is it?
Yeah.
Make America great again is an impulse. And it's not just here, it's all around the world. Make blank great again. You want to go back to where there's stasis, or at least some people felt stasis. That's just normal. So I think what our country is going through is that. Let's make it the way where we felt like we knew, there was a feeling of security, even if things weren't great at the time. There was a greater sense of security than the evolutionary impulse moving forward. So, that's my take on it, and I think that's right, or I'm close to being right.
Well, you're probably close to being right because of the results of what happened yesterday
Right,
in our election.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a, there's no huge gap, It's very, very close to being up there, I think, maybe, hopefully.
What's up there?
Well, since the vote was so close, it isn't like they're really overpowering everything. You've got to gain some, but there may be something very different within the next few years. I think it could be.
I think that'll be the next thing.
The evolution is...
That impulse, and you can see with Obama and, it's going back and forth in the country politically.
But it'll
And that's-
settle, I hope, for the good
Yeah,
and, for the people.
yeah. It just, when you think of like global warming, for instance, the trees cannot keep up with global warming. That's why they're dying, right? The oceans can't keep up with the rate of change. And people can't either. It's too fast, and so people feel like they're being left behind. I feel like I'm being left behind as far as technology and all that. I can't keep up with all it. Can't do it. So even with my status, I feel like I'm being left behind. The world is kind of taken off with artificial intelligence and all the things that have just come up in the last 20 years, 30 years. The rate of change is too fast for people to have it incorporated in their lives, and it's scary, right? And you feel left behind, and that's a lousy feeling. So the impulse is to go back. To the extent where, like in the book of Exodus, for instance, when Moses frees God's people, how long does it take before they want to go back to Egypt? 400 years of slavery, 400 years. They were under slavery in Egypt. How long does it take before they're already grumbling, we want to go back? It was weeks. I think it was weeks when they wanted to go back, right? You know, make slavery great again, kind of thing. That is a very human impulse. You work with people who are incarcerated, right? They're freed. It's too much freedom. It's too much. So they recidivate, right? They go back because even though prison is horrible, they know what it is, and that's just human nature to do that. So a person of faith, someone who wants to live a Christ-like life, that's not easy because you're moving forward. You're becoming a more redeemed person. You're becoming more whole as a person. That's not easy to do. So it's often easier to go back to what you know, whether it's alcoholism, drug addiction, abuse, or whatever, whatever. And we saw that at the hospital. I've said this before. The patients that we watched like a hawk were those that were abused. They were the most likely to escape the hospital and go back to their abusers, by far. And so all I'm saying is it's tragic, but it's normal. That's the normalcy of human beings, to go back. And Jesus, when he arrives on the scene, he's calling people to move forward, to be more integrated as a person, to be more, to the whole idea of forgiveness is to let go of the past. It's what the word means, let go. Well, that's easier said than done, as far as I'm concerned. It's hard to do. It's hard. So the way of Christ has often been explained as cruciform. This is going to hurt, in other words. And it does, even for a good outcome. It's going to hurt because you have to go through it. And so, my feeling is let's give some people credit. I mean, not credit, but understanding if they don't want to do that. I get it. It's hard to go that way. And it takes a lot of faith and hope and love and graciousness, community to move forward. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck with what you've got. So I'm very sympathetic as far as our country is concerned, and people in general, and their own private struggles with wanting to go back. And that's Malachi.
So do you think that was operating in this election?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where the country's at. I mean, some it'll be interesting.
Well, it has to be.
Yeah, that's
Look at the law. I mean,
yeah,
it has to be where they're
right. That's my
where they
analysis.
are.
That's my analysis also of the election.
I didn't actually think of it that way
Yeah.
until you brought this up, but
Sure.
it makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Now, there are a lot of interesting questions with regard to the country. I mean, this is Malachi too. Most of the Bible is dealing with this, how to move forward. And people, with the country, I'll just say this, the next generation, the younger generation coming up, we'll see how they handle it when we give them the country, when the country's given over to them, which it will be, and how they, deal with those impulses back or forward. So at least I have a feeling they're going to want to go that way. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now, this is all today's stuff or last night's stuff. But here, one of the things that is always the case, all the way through the Bible, is that if you are a person of faith, you're moving forward, beginning with Abraham and Sarah. Get you going, right? And they're old, right? I mean, you think that's not, you think it's going to be the younger generation. It's not. The father of our and mother of our faith, and the Jewish faith, and also the Muslim faith, all three of us, we lionize and honor two old people. Hi, Margaret.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you. Oh, no, it is 11:30, right? Yes.
No, 11.
11 o'clock.
You're
Sit
kidding.
down,
No.
come on.
Here we go.
No, I looked at the list from, okay.
No, it's 11.
Damn. Sorry.
It's okay, that's all right.
I'm glad you're here.
We're glad you're
We're
here.
glad you're here, and God doesn't care. It's appropriate to damn things from time to time. So what I'm saying is that all throughout the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, it's about movement forward, beginning with Abraham and Sarah. Move forward, not backwards. And what you get is what? When you move forward, what do you get? With your life, with your faith, what's the upside? What's the benefit?
Well, we're talking about now. Women would have a benefit moving forward rather than back. Blacks would have a benefit moving forward rather than back.
And what about whites? What about whites? Is there
Whites?
anything in it for them?
White men are what did this to us today, I think,
Yeah,
and
I
the
think
black men and the Hispanic
Men,
men,
yeah.
it's men, the gender.
Well, a lot of
It's a
them,
big
yeah.
gender thing now.
It's a gender thing, okay.
Yeah.
But to your question was, what do we get when we?
What are the potential benefits for moving forward in our lives?
Joy.
Joy,
Relief.
relief,
From certain,
Comfort.
comfort,
You see it?
okay. Anything else? Just brainstorm. What do you get? What do you get when you move? If you decide to move forward with your life, if a person decides,
Security.
you could get
maybe not security. I don't know about that.
You could get.
We could,
you
if
could
we
get-
moved the right direction.
Yeah. Okay.
you
I'm
could
talking
get-
about us personally now, not politically.
So,
What do you get? What could you get?
for.
Community.
That's good.
Yeah, community.
Okay, community, fellow travelers,
Like if you got married, you get community or you get companionship.
right?
It depends on what move forward means, because there's so many different ways to move forward.
Move forward in a generative, blessed way.
Well, greater tranquility, because you could say, for example, moving forward today for some people like me, and I think most of us would be, you're going to be accepting, and you're going to wait and see, and you're going to dismiss rage, or or disdain, or you're going to try to understand all those people who voted for somebody that you think is a lunatic, criminal, disgusting. I mean, it's all these adjectives.
Yeah.
You can just
Racist,
question and
misogynist,
realize that
lying.
so many people did not
What
feel
else?
that that any of those things were disqualifying, and because I guess because they preferred the idea of a strong leader,
Which,
Right.
that doesn't even fit either.
No,
No.
he's clearly a coward.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
He's a coward.
Some of it's
And most strong men are, they're
He's
cowards.
like Oz in the Wizard of Oz.
Right, exactly. Don't look behind
The curtain.
the curtain. Well, I think one of the things that's offered is a story. You get a story. Travel stories, right? When you're traveling, you almost always have a story,
Yeah.
right? Good, bad, or indifferent. There's almost always, I can't think of a single time I've traveled where there wasn't some kind of story. And that's one of the gifts that's given when you go. You get a story. And I think, one of the things I just kind of judge things by or people in some ways too, is the best story wins. you got a great story, right? If you have a great story, it almost always involves travel, moving in some way. It doesn't have to be physical either, just moving as a person. Stories of transformation of people, like St. Paul, for instance, who was a first-class hater, just fantastic hater of persons, judgmental. He turns, but that was on the road to Damascus, right? So you have this sense of travel. And what I was talking about before, having to do with the Bible and travel, beginning with Abraham and Sarah, is travel is all in the Old Testament. And then Jesus picks it up. And what does he do? He's on the move all the time.
Oh, that's right.
All the time. He's on the move all the time. He doesn't even have a house. I mean, I don't consider him homeless, but he kind of is homeless.
He's a sojourner.
He's a sojourner. And what about his followers? Even the word follow is movement. You're following. And then what about after his death? What's the word? What's the next word? You want to see Jesus? What do you have to do? The Gospel of Mark, right? If you want to see Jesus, you got to go to Galilee. That's where you can find him. You go. And at the end of, I think it's the Gospel of John, it is. You know, his last words, Jesus' last words to his disciples are, go out to the far corners of the world. As I have been sent, so I send you. It's movement. The word education comes from the Latin, educare. It means to be moved from where you are to another place. That's what the word means. I've asked educators for years about this. Do you even know what the word means? And they don't. But that's what it means. You're going to move your students from one place to another place, hopefully a better place, more enlightened place and wise place. And so the question is that the human impulse? And the answer is yes. But there's a counter impulse to all that, which has to do with fear, I think. Fear, sadness, rage, grief, that will keep a person from moving. And here we are, right? Here we are.
We're stuck, aren't we?
Yeah, we're stuck. We're afraid, we're mad, we're disenfranchised, and we're absolutely stuck. And so it keeps you here, where you need to go here. Now, here's a water analogy. A pond of water, a body of water, that does not have an inlet or an outlet, what does it become? Stagnant. Right, stagnant. And that's what's happening in Malachi. It's stagnant. There's nothing coming in, there's nothing going out. You're just stagnant. And that's going to continue now for the next 400 years. Stagnation. And then comes Jesus, who is digging on both sides, theologically and in his person, in healing people, in speaking about grace and forgiveness, talking to the wrong people. He's digging ditches. So water can come in, so to speak. Grace can come in, and the junk can go out. The only issue with that is it's going to get them killed. You start digging, it's going to get you killed. Or something's going to happen to you. And it happens all the time. That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. So let's not be too sorry about what's happening. You've got to be clear-headed. That's what's going, in my opinion, that's what's going on. Okay? Now, even Malachi was a pain in the neck.
Pain in the neck.
Oh my God, he's a pain. These minor prophets are just, read Amos. It's just, they're just freaking out. And they all pay the price, by the way. They see the day. This is what prophets do. I'm just sort of bouncing around right now. But a prophet in the Old Testament is not necessarily a person who sees the future. There's some of that, for sure. But a prophet, what they're really good at is seeing the present. And then it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what's next. If you can see what is at the in your moment, in your own moment of time, then it's easy to see. It's relatively easy to see what's next. That's the Old Testament prophets. They speak the truth about what's happening, not necessarily what will happen. There's some of that, but and there's one in Malachi. There's one exception to that. He's going to hammer on the religious leadership all the way through. And you're doing this right, wrong, and this wrong, and this wrong, and this wrong. You're not following God's precepts, blah, 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 all of that. And he's describing what's happening at that time. Okay? But he's got this. Let's just read. I'm going to give you a little hope today.
Nice.
All right, shall we do that?
Yeah.
I know we've read it before, briefly, but the last chapter, chapter 4, verse 4 to the end. Somebody want to read that?
Remember the teaching of my servant Moses, the statutes and ordinances that I command him at Horeb for all Israel. Lo, I will send you the prophet Elijah before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. He will turn the hearts of parents to their children and the hearts of children to their parents, so that I will not come and strike the land with a curse.
Hope. It's tough. These are tough words too, right? They're tough words. But he's doing two things at the end. One is he's talking about the law of Moses. Remember the law of Moses. And the law is good. It won't get you to heaven, but it's a good way to live your life. Those 10 Commandments, we got them right on the wall, right behind you. Hanging there. Hanging. Sally O'Brien did that. And who I never met, but did come to church, I'm told.
Yeah, she was
I know, I'm kidding. I'm bringing in the other conversation. But the law is good. It's intended for good. But it's not enough. There's heart going on here too. The heart of children will be turned again toward their parents. And the hearts of parents will be turned to their children. Is that not a good thing? It's fantastic, right? So that is the last word of the Old Testament. That's what's gonna happen. And it's a terrible day of the Lord. It's gonna be shaken up.
Well, one thing about if something happens like this election you think is not what you desire, you can turn to other things that you can do in your life that could make things better for your family, for yourself, you know, you can say, okay, I don't even know what happened in New York State. I guess New York State went blue in the end, I don't know. But I mean, we got Pat Ryan, so we got Christine Gillibrand. We live in a good place, really.
We do, yeah.
And you know, I think we think our place is better and the way we do stuff is better. And if other people don't agree, well, you know, go to Nebraska or go to Kansas or whatever you want to do. If you like us, you know.
Well, I think
Price of living's lower there.
we're very fortunate to be living in New York.
Yeah, that's right.
Because my
Very fortunate.
granddaughter in Tennessee was quite worried about that, too. Living in a state like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been that way for a long time, but I suppose and it has gotten worse, I guess.
I mean, we just need to pray for all those people in all those other places that they, you know, are able to get the things they need to help them and stuff, which, you know, I mean, as my son was saying this morning, you know, Trump can't make the price of groceries go down.
Well, they think he can.
No, he
What?
can't.
They think he can.
They think he can, but he can't.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
He tells them, but that's what I don't understand, is there, I'm a very naive person,
No, you're
but I could listen to him and think, no, I mean, why would anybody believe lies?
because they're not aged.
They're lies, I mean,
Right.
I can fix it, I can do this, I've done this the best of anybody in the world, and, and well, how can people believe that? Or they don't really believe it, and I keep going back and forth, no, they don't believe, yes, I think they do.
Oh, they
No,
most certainly
they
do.
don't believe
Oh, they
it.
most certainly do. believe it. Most certainly do.
But that's what makes me wonder about the whole education system. Now, our kids go to school, and now they're saying they can't read certain books. They don't want them taught slavery because it makes the white kids feel bad. They don't want them taught history about Germany, and because that also would probably make people feel bad. And what's going on with our schools? And now we're not going to have any education department, federal. So the states are on their own.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's not, I don't know. I mean, you dumb a country down by not educating the people in it.
That's right.
And then you've got complete control of everything.
That's right.
And I think that's part of the plan.
I do
right
too.
there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how you control people, is
You
keep
just
them
knock
ignorant.
Keep them dumb,
Keep them ignorant. Yeah.
knock them down.
And conversely, if you want to educate people, you have to somehow help people with pain, because it's gonna, as I said, if you're gonna go that way, it's gonna hurt at times. It's gonna hurt to read about and talk about the Holocaust. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt to read and talk about slavery in America and Jim Crow laws and all the rest. It's gonna hurt. And
when I was, basically one of the oldest people here, but, so, when I was in school, there's a lot of stuff we didn't learn. We learned the
That's right.
myth, we learned the
Sure,
myth
of
that
course.
persecuted pilgrims came over from Holland, and they'd already had to leave England to go to, and then they came over, and then they came, and it was just wonderful, and the Indians were so nice, and they helped them all. I mean, we don't learn about the
But-
smallpox, we don't learn about all the Indians that
Or,
were killed.
nor how we killed all those Indians.
No,
and took
no,
their
that's right, we
land.
don't learn about that.
We didn't,
And
We killed
those
them.
are things you don't
With
do.
Virginia, we didn't learn about it, but I mean, I was trying to make the point that it's not easy when you're coming up with a syllabus for kids in grade 6 or grade, whatever grade. How much is it right to tell? I'm not trying to say things should be covered up.
or
I'm in
when,
favor.
or when.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
more
question of
when.
when do you reveal the horrible history of colonialism and genocide? When do you do that and how do you do that? It's not an easy thing.
It's not an
Because,
easy
and
thing.
it hasn't been done.
Well, I don't think you start down in kindergarten, but certainly by middle school, kids are old enough to start to understand those things. I mean,
Well, there's the issue, that's really the issue.
That's the
Yeah.
issue that
Fourth
needs to
grade
be
to eighth
discussed.
grade.
yeah.
Right.
8th grade was when, the first year in my school, that was the first year we had American history. And I can remember, the only thing I remember from the course is, first of all, the girls' school had merged with the boys' school, and we had the boys' history teacher. He was a tough guy. And we weren't used to that. I guess we still had a girls' class, but the classes merged together in 9th grade, and then became co-ed, but it was still so. And one of the girls in our class, Sally Lewis, she said, but, the Declaration of Independence says does it say all men are created equal? Or
Yes,
does
it
all
says
people?
all men.
All men. Okay. Yeah, all men are created equal. Well, we weren't getting into men and women at that point. The issue was more like our. And our teacher said, well, do you really believe that? That was something that, that was very controversial.
Right.
And we talked about that a little bit, but I don't really know where it went, but that was just like, that was 8th grade. We still were just at the threshold. We weren't even in the door of, you know, the truth as the real facts, or what Christopher Columbus did, for example.
Horrendous.
I mean, you know.
I think that was something that we were supposed to strive toward, making all people equal, but we really haven't tried very hard, I don't think.
Well, I guess
I mean,
you
you
could
take one step, like with the slavery, and even after the war, you know, people still kept it. After the war, I was teaching school in Missouri, and it was it's completely segregated.
Oh,
Not
this-
even in southern Missouri, up not far from St. Louis, up in that area.
This is after
Columbia.
World War II, you mean? No, it couldn't be after.
No,
After the Vietnam.
no, after the slavery, after the
Civil War.
after the Civil War, but after the emancipation, you know.
And the Voting Rights Act.
Voting Rights
Right.
Oh, the
Act.
60s.
Yeah.
60s,
Right.
yeah, 50s actually, a little bit earlier than that, but it was even in the 50s, wasn't it, when we had the big marches and the,
No.
yeah, late 50s and,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, they
and
started in
then
the late
but
50s, you're right.
Lyndon Johnson passed the
Yeah.
Voting
Yes,
Rights
right.
Act.
64 or something like that.
Emancipation Proclamation or
64.
whatever it was.
Well,
But,
yeah.
but even then, the schools didn't desegregate, they were all segregated.
So 54 was the decision of the Supreme Court, and you know, that segregation was unconstitutional. 1954.
54.
I can't even remember.
Well, in
the decision.
59, I taught in a black school up in, not too far from St. Louis, and not far from Columbia, in upper, central, northern central Missouri. And supposedly, they weren't supposed to be segregated, but they were.
I guess it took a long time to get around to changing things. Brown against Board of Education, thank you. Yeah, I mean, but then of course,
Anyway,
But I would say, my response to that is we often will say things that are truer than what is meant. And then you have to catch up to it. So all men are created equal, or all men, right? Right? And you have to
expand that. a little bit.
expand it
Yeah.
and expand it. And at this stage, are all women created equal, right? That's a question now in the country. What about illegal aliens? What about Russians? What about Chinese? I mean, is this just having to do with America? Or is it a statement about humanity? I think it's a statement about humanity. So, we have to get that straight. It's not just people that are born here. They were making a statement about, it's anthropology is what they were talking about. But they couldn't wrap their own heads around it because of their own being tied to their own place in history.
Culture.
Right. They
Their
couldn't go
culture
there.
was white men did the.
That's right. So
They
that,
made the.
but the statement itself, right? Once you say it, right, it has a life of its own because of the force of truth in it is so true that we're still catching up with it. We don't know, and there's a lot of things in the Bible. I mean, while you were talking, I was thinking about this. This is the Abrahamic covenant. This is chapter 12 of Genesis. When it all gets started, what is this all about? Well, this is it. You got a second?
yeah.
Now the Lord said to Abram, this is right out of the gate, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. Go. And here it is. And I will make of you a great nation. And I will bless you. And I will make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who curses you, I will curse. And by you, through you, all the families of the earth shall bless themselves.
That's interesting.
That's how it all begins. And again, saying the words that we hear, the force of truth is so deep and so powerful that it takes a long time, maybe not ever, to be able to live into it. I mean, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and of course those words, all men were created equal, that was just written by Jefferson.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
his view, but, and I don't know, because I'm enough of the story, I don't know where he got that idea. I guess he got it from Rousseau or something.
Descartes and Rousseau and all those.
Yeah, and they got it from Montaigne. Montaigne was really great, you know, he wrote about cultures, different cultures, and they were just discovering people in South America and places like that. And his general theme was, you know, different people have different customs, and they're all, they shouldn't be scorned, they should be appreciated. And that was, I love him. I haven't read his biography, I haven't, I really want to read, because he was really ahead of his time. He was really great. But I mean, when Jefferson wrote that, we don't really know what he meant or what he was thinking either,
Right.
you know?
And
Maybe he really was just thinking of men. Maybe he was just thinking of white men.
white men, yeah.
With
I
property,
think so.
with property.
Right, with property, white
You
men,
couldn't vote
right,
unless you had property.
that's right.
And everything else was white men's property. Women,
Yeah.
slaves,
Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
they're like chattel.
So you can see,
And today, I
Right.
see in this country,
It's the
it's
same.
still that way.
that's right.
Where
We have not resolved this. We have not resolved it.
it.
No, we have not resolved it.
I mean, there are people in, I don't know if it's the Christian nationalism or what it is, but there are people who really believe that wives should be directed by their husbands and they should vote according to what their husbands say.
Right, well, that happened for here too, for a long time, right? But not still, but not
That's what's
still.
Yeah. They even think that a 12-year-old raped child should be forced to have a child.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
should
insane.
be forced to have a baby.
It's insane.
I mean, what is,
It's so uncivilized, I would say.
well, the cruelty of the whole thing is what
What
gets
about
me.
their
The
kids
cru-
being
Just
born from
cruelty is the point. Suffer, make them suffer, and then we stay in control.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to fight for.
And to move, when I hear that, to move forward, but it takes time and suffering. I mean, James Baldwin says, you know, I love him, and he said, well, once you get rid of your racism, you have to pick up your sadness.
You're sad.
Sadness, because or pain. He says, once you get rid of your racism, then you got to pick up your pain.
Because you mean you don't feel superior anymore?
Right,
being
well,
a white person?
in what you've done and what you represent and what and I would say too, in concert with that, is when a person becomes a Christian, their sins become more painful. Because now you know. Now you know. Before, it's muted. Because you're not in a state, you're not in a place of grace and acceptance. But once you do, St. Paul goes through this, he's famous for this, right? He goes on and on about this. That he's the worst sinner and all that. Well, pre-salvation, let's say, he never would have said that. But there's something that happens to us when we're freed, so that we can see better, including ourselves and our own actions, and our own hearts and our minds, that causes quite a bit of pain.
Imagine how pained our next president would be if he were to have a moment on the road to Damascus.
Right. Well, you just want to, yeah, I mean, you just want to kill yourself, you know. And I would say, you know, maybe the rest of America, once you see slavery, once you see Jim Crow, once you see, you know, the incarceration of Japanese, you know, internment camps here, you see, you know, the racism and blah, blah, blah. It hurts to see that. And to say we collectively have allowed it, this is our legacy, or this is our history, maybe our legacy too, for that matter. The wars that we've been in, and murder, pilgrims coming over with and the blankets that came after. It is, and I'm not saying other countries don't share they have their own history too, for sure. But one of the things that after World War II in Berlin was the Reichstag, their national building, right?
Yeah.
One of the first things that they did as they rebuild is the Reichstag is completely glass. You can see right through it. So there's no secrets. That's why they built it that way. You know, rather than with stone, they built it with glass. And you know, the first official visit to the Reichstag, who came? Israel. You know, that is embracing a very horrendous past, and that's what the the official German people, officially the German people, I should say, said, look, we are transparent, and the people we are responsible of genocide, they're coming first. I mean, that's grabbing it, right? And painful.
Yes.
But you got to give them credit, and you know, there's been back and forth, of course, and so on. But as there will be. But that I thought, well, okay, that is an incredibly brave, courageous, and painful thing to do, and they did it.
But talking about the pain that people, we should still be feeling the pain today of slavery.
Of course,
But we don't.
we don't. We want to move. We want to keep it
I think
back.
some of us do, but I think the majority of this country, they don't feel any pain. They don't think as I do about the Japanese. I live not too far from one of these Japanese camps
You
when
did?
I was growing up.
Really?
And-
Which state was that?
Missouri,
Missouri.
southern Missouri.
Oh, I didn't know they were, I thought they
Yeah,
were
oh,
all.
there were Japanese camps all
All over the country. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, all
over.
over.
And, you know, I didn't know anything about them other than it was during the war, or I thought that they were supposed to be there, you know. But I just think that if we don't ever feel that pain, and if the majority, and if we're not taught it in school, how are we going to feel the pain? They didn't live through anything, you know.
Well, here's the thing, with individuals and families and systems, right? If you keep pushing the pain down, what you're doing is you're burying it alive, and it will come up in a way that you cannot control. And if you look at like Nazi Germany, for instance, they had pain too, and they kept pushing it down, and the results were horrendous. And that happens to us too. I mean, I'm well acquainted with like the AA community and the recovery community, and they'll say that you keep pushing that down, and pain is really what motivates a person to excessively drink. You're in pain, so you push it down, push it down, push it down, push it down, and after a while, it will have a life of its own that you cannot control. It will erupt in ways that are dark and harmful and raging. And I've talked to so many alcoholics that are in recovery, and they all say that. It's generated by pain that you don't want to deal with. And it erupts in these crazy ways. And, we're going to see that with the country. I'm sure that, it's going to happen in some crazy way. Yeah.
It's a tough issue. What kids should be taught and when. And this is what we're talking about, because, I mean, so many things that, you know, it's like, that's just a really tough issue.
It is.
I think.
It is.
You need to be able to figure out how to write something in a book for kids
Mhm.
that's true, and you don't need to tell them all the gory details that are written on the page. And then, because you want people to feel hopeful, and you want them to feel good about being Americans. You know what I mean? You don't want them to feel bad about being Americans. You want them to feel
Mhm.
that, because we do have some good things now.
Yeah, for
We have
sure.
the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
We have supposedly integrated schools. We have, so you can talk about how we got there. I don't know. It's a tough issue how to do that. I wonder what the textbook companies and writing these books for kids at an earlier age does. That's a tough issue. Because I think you can learn these things in high school, but I didn't even learn them in high school.
Well, we used to have civics in high, they don't even
Civics,
have that
yeah,
anymore.
that's
And it was
I know.
all about government,
That's
and
the-
the checks and balances and the, and I don't think kids realize that anymore.
They should have civics.
I don't know if
Definitely.
they
You should have
teach it.
civics.
I didn't
But
have.
what are the mechanics? And I think this is where churches, if they're healthy, can help people with the mechanics of restoration. Because that's really the message, right? I think that's the gracious message of Christ, is restoration of a person and restoration of others that you may have harmed along the way. AA does it too. It's fourth step. It's the fourth step in AA is making amends. It's making amends, and it doesn't mean saying you're sorry. It does not mean that. It means you go to a person and say, "This is what I did." It's a little different than "I'm sorry. This is what I did."
You acknowledge.
You acknowledge what happened and your role in it, and that takes courage, I would say. Anyone can say that they're sorry, and then as it unfolds, you come to understand what you need to do next.
Well, I think we as a country are in a big trouble if that's the case.
That is the
Because I
case.
was thinking this morning, just what we're saying about if you know what happened during slavery and all these horrible things we did to the Native Americans, if you know that, you would have some guilt feeling probably,
Right.
and gee, that should never happen
Yeah.
again. And yet, yesterday, more than half the people in this country went and voted for a man who is saying today, or somebody or one of his minions today were saying, well, yes, we're going to round up all of these people who don't have on TV this morning. We're gonna, they're going back and they're gonna round. And I'm thinking, everybody that voted for somebody who's talking about encampments and shooting a person who doesn't agree with them in the head with a rifle, with 9 rifles pointed at her, as he said about Liz. Anybody that can vote for that in this country, they have no, and they mean it. I used to think, well, they just think he's just talking. No, but I think the people that voted for him want that. They like this chaos. They like this division. They like this hatred. It's something that's in them that makes them want what we're going to get. And unfortunately,
It
it's
resonates. It resonates in them.
and it's going to not just be them, it's going to be us too. I mean, the whole country, and they would go, and that many people vote for cruelty, for anger and hatred and division of this person and this group of people, and why, and so they can be in charge.
Well, there certainly are people like that. I mean,
Well, that's the whole problem,
Yeah.
is how many there are.
Yeah.
You couldn't have ever told me that this country would have that many people with that kind of
Character.
lack of character, yeah.
That's what I think. I
There's
think
a
that
lot of followers that don't really
They don't even know.
They don't see.
They don't even know what he said about Liz Cheney and stuff. And they'd say, oh, well, that was just a metaphor. He didn't really mean it.
Oh, no, I think he meant it. He would like that. He may do
Well, they
it.
meant
We
it.
don't know.
They mean it.
We don't know. Poor Liz. I certainly hope not, but
Hope she's got bodyguards.
Adam
Yeah.
Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, watch out. You all can be.
I think there are gonna be a lot of things that exist in our society that are gonna make it difficult for Trump to
For that to
do
And
something.
hopefully one of them is Lyall.
Yeah,
I hope one of them is Lyall.
yeah.
That we're a firewall.
Yeah, well, we have
And-
to protect ourselves too.
If they find some immigrants, some illegal, let's say illegal immigrants that have committed a crime, let's say they find them, well, okay, well, that's fine, we should arrest them and they should deport them, we've done that for a long time, that's okay. And apparently there are quite a few of them, I don't know, I read it was like, something like 375,000 of them wandering around. Well, how do they know that number? You know,
They haven't caught them yet, if they know the number.
Liberty and
Yeah.
justice
Right.
for all, except the President of the United States. No justice there, because now he's scot-free of everything, every crime he's ever
Yeah,
committed.
he's a criminal.
He's a
Sorry,
criminal.
everyone at home.
well, I don't personally care whether he goes to jail or not. If they sentenced him on that 34 felonies thing, basically I think he should just get a fine, a big fat fine, which he'll probably never pay, but whatever, he'll argue he's immune.
I
don't
think
think that's
if we had a true justice system, he would do whatever they would do to somebody else who was caught doing the same thing. People, I'm sure, do it all the time. They go to jail. Look at how many people that work for him that have been to prison.
Right.
And because they did what he said. But he's not going to. I mean, it's not liberty and justice for all.
Well,
Justice
those
is
are
only
more
for-
words that
Yeah, there
are
you
so
go.
true, you gotta catch up.
Yep, you can't. They're not anywhere near right now in this country.
Well, on that note,
Yes.
I mean, it's, a couple things. So, we'll, if you want to, we can do more after the holidays.
Yeah,
After the holidays, if you'd like to do that.
Well, I need it.
I'm game for that.
definitely.
Then,
Yeah, how about, just pick a.
yeah.
If something is really brewing, I'd like to know about it in terms of what you'd like to study. And the other thing is, this has been terrific. We've been doing this for a while now, 10 years, and
That's great.
I think we're all kind of deepening our faith. I know I am, and it's happening to me because of you. And I just really appreciate you coming out and being a part of it. And
Well, it's
I
really.
feel like
it's
I've had a
wonderful.
therapy
Yeah.
session today. I've never had one in my life.
Wait, what did you say?
She said she's had a therapy session.
Oh, that's nice.
well, it's not therapy, but maybe it's therapeutic.
Yeah, well,
Well, I think that was a better word.
one of the
It's
things,
been therapeutic.
it's really great. I mean, you are so knowledgeable about all religious history and
Yes.
a scholar and so on, and for you to be able to share some of these things is just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I had good teachers.
I had good teachers.
Yeah,
I
but
had
you
really
must
good
like
teachers.
sharing it too, because it's like, you know so much stuff. God, I'm so impressed with all the languages you know, and the history of the Bible and everything. And God, it's just
He had a
fantastic.
great
I
education
did.
in that
I
field.
did.
That's
I truly did.
wonderful.
I'm
That's
really
why we need
blessed.
more education.
I need educated clergy, for sure.
Yes,
So it's nice that you are sharing your education with us.
Yes.
You're educating us.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've had marvelous teachers.
You're our teacher.
Very-
You're supposed to be
Who
our
were
teacher.
very generous to me.
Well,
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I have to go back and look at that schedule. I should have known.
Don't we feel better? Don't we feel better?
Who's standing there? I'll tell you, at the end of my first year of seminary, you don't believe anything. They just deconstructed you. deconstructed you, but at the end of the year, your mind is blown. You don't know anything. And they would say, we'll build you back up, but right now, you gotta go down.
You gotta start
Yeah,
at
oh
the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah. I mean, you're just sick. I mean, physically sick. Because it was horrible. Talk about pain, right?
Is that a cathedral St. John of the
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I thought I
It's my official Cathedral of St. John of the Mop.
I got